everybody, it's Michelle. So we're going to get started on making this junk journal, and I'm literally making it out of some junk that I have saved. So I love making junk journals. I've made quite a few, and I love making kind of what I'm calling pamphlet style junk journals. And I do also like making them out of found and saved items. So what I've got here today to show you is I'm using paper sacks. These are paper sacks that are flat that, I have been collecting from shopping. And as long as they're not super ripped up and everything, then they work great. So I have a couple different sizes that I'm going to use today to kind of show you how to put one together. You can use pretty much any size you want. And as you can see, I'm using two different sizes here. So the one thing that I'm going to do is, like I said, making a pamphlet journal. So the front cover and the back cover are going to measure 6 inches wide by 9 inches tall. And then that way, when I use, for example, my 8.5 by 11 paper, it will fit right in those covers and be great. Then I can add all the other 8.5 by 11 papers that I have, any, papers that I've coffee dyed, whatever. So it's going to work out really great. So what I want to share with you is kind of how I'm going to put this together. You can use any size paper bags, like I said, you want, as long as you can get a 9 or a 6 by 9 front and back cover. And what we're going to do today is do kind of like a do-si-do type one. So we're going to have actually 3 signatures in it, and I'm going to show you how to put it together. It's kind of an accordion style. We're going to use the remaining pieces as pockets and flaps and things, and it's just a way to do this. Now, again, any size bag, as long as you can get, the covers, will work. And you don't even have to have like extra long bags. If you just have something that's like 12 by 9, that would work perfect, because all you have to do is fold it in half. Does that make sense? I hope so. So if you have any questions, please let me know, because I am more than happy to help with anything that you guys need. But I thought I would show you kind of what I'm thinking right now, and we'll put one together, and then we'll go back and put pattern papers on. So that's the other thing I like about this. When I'm folding my signatures, all I got to do is fold my 8.5 by 11 papers. And again, we're using these gorgeous papers, Petals and Letters from Country Craft Creations. But then also I'm going to be incorporating some coffee dyed papers that I have made and having my stash ready for this. Okay. The other thing too is that for your covers, they're easy to mat if you just take the paper, and cut it in half. So like if I wanted this to be the cover paper, I can just cut it at 5.5, and then I can put it on here. Maybe add on the outsides. I might use a little bit of cardstock just to buff it up a little bit, but other than that, I mean, this should be pretty ready to go, right? So that's kind of what I like to do. The other reason I like this size is because then when I put different, like, ribbons, I put paper clips, bookmarks, those kinds of things, there's a little bit of room for them to be in the journal. I hope that makes sense to it. Well, as we decorate. Okay. So let's start with this bigger bag. This bigger bag, I measured it, and it's about 14 3/4 by 18.5. Okay, so all I'm going to do is put it in my scoreboard, if I can find my scoreboard, and I'm going to score it. So I'm just going to put it in here with the side over here, and I'm just going to score it down the 6-inch line as far as I can go, because this is longer than my paper, right? And then I'm going to turn it over, and again, I'm going to score down at 6, so that kind of gives me that continuous line. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this over, and then I'm going to end up having this be the front of my pamphlet here. Okay, and this is okay because we're going to cover it up, but it is also a junk journal, so some of these little frayed pieces and stuff, if they show, it's going to be great, because that's kind of the point of this, is we're using some junk. We're using some stuff that we found, our found papers. So anyways, once I folded this, then I'm going to go back in my scoreboard, and I'm going to score again at 6, which should be right along that line. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it over again, and then score it again at 6. Okay. So that will give me the 2 6 by 9 pieces that I need kind of for the front and the back. And then I've got all this extra that we can play with. Okay. So if I get this out of the way, then what I can do now is I can fold this up from the bottom, and then that creates two nice pockets on the inside of this. So if I flip this over, now I've got a cover and I've got two pockets on the inside, and then this is where my signature is going to sew. And then I've got this extra piece here. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to turn and fold this to the back. Okay, so now I'm making kind of an accordion shape. And that's where my other bag is going to come into play, okay? And don't worry about this being long right now, because we can alter this. This is the open cut edge of my bag, and we're going to incorporate that into some more pocket space, okay? So don't worry about the edges, don't worry about it being open. But right now, this is going to be my front inside pocket here. Here's an inside pocket here, so my signature will sew here. And then when it turns, then we're going to have this, but we're going to add more to it. Okay, so this is the first bag. So again, 6 by 9. So we're going to take that other size bag, all right, and we're pretty much going to do the same thing. We're going to turn it into a 6 by 9, but we're going to have different size pockets. Okay, so it's just simple, straightforward. We're going to score it the same way again. This bag here measured 12 wide by 16 tall. Okay. And again, it's just a paper sack that I got from shopping, okay? Scoring it down the line at 6, okay? And then we're going to fold it on that line, okay? And paper bags are not perfect, so if you get a little bit of overhang, like this one's a little bit longer on the side, it's okay. It's going to be just fine. Kind of one of the points of making junk journals is that we're using up things that we wouldn't normally use for this purpose, but creating something absolutely beautiful out of it, okay? So I just did the same thing. I folded it over again, and you know, I think I forgot to tell you on the other one. So after you do the 6-inch scores, you really do need to score at 9, okay, to make that bottom pocket. So you are going to want to turn it and score at 9. I think I totally forgot to tell you that, but it's the same process here. Just go down as far as you can, okay, and then just turn it over and score it at 9, okay, and that'll give you that bottom pocket. I totally forgot to tell you that. Okay, so I did the same thing with this one. Okay, so if we open this up again, what I did after I made the 6-inch scores is I turned it over and I scored it at 9. Okay, that's all I did. Easy peasy. Sorry about that. I got ahead of myself. I'm so excited. So there's that piece. Now this is going to give us a more shallow pocket, but that's okay because it gives it a little more interest, right? So what I am thinking I'm going to do is I want to make this into like yet another accordion pocket. Okay, so I want to kind of keep this pocket here. I'm thinking we're going to glue this piece in. So now that I've got this edge is a little bit longer than this page here. So I'm going to need to trim this up. Here is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. So I'm going to take this bigger bag and I'm going to put it into the scoreboard with this last score line. Here's the open end. I am going to go ahead and cut this off at, I think, 5, okay? I'm just going to trim that off and get rid of that. So what that's going to do is give me a shorter page, but we're going to add a page to this, so it's going to work out just fine. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take the second bag that we did, okay? And I'm going to fold this to the back. And here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to glue this to this, which is going to give me a pocket here and a pocket here. We'll glue that piece down and we'll use some pattern paper to kind of help reinforce that pocket. Okay, so we're going to just glue that down. And then this will fold over like so. Okay, now we have a decision to make. We have this pocket, which will actually end up being the back of our album. I'm going to back up just a little bit. So we trimmed this last edge of the bigger bag off at 5.5. Okay, so our book is going to, this will be the cover. We'll have the inside pocket here, and it's going to accordion. And then we're going to want a couple more accordions. So what I'm going to do with this bag here, we've already scored at 6, at 12, and then we scored the bottom at 9. We're going to put this in here, and that's going to glue to the back of this page right here. So what that's going to do for this is create a little pocket, okay? Then we have this pocket here, and what I'm going to do is fold this up. Now, I think I might do a little bit of adjusting here, but what we could do, and this is one of the things that I love about these journals, because you can totally really recreate everything and do stuff, you know, as you're working on this, is we could, there's a couple things we could do. We could create a flap out of this and then have the pocket come up like this. So we have kind of a pocket here and then a pocket here. We could cut this and then have this side flip up and this side flip underneath and just glue it shut. So I think that's what I'm actually going to end up doing, is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut up this first score line of this pocket. I really hope I'm not confusing you. I'm kind of doing this on the fly, and this is how I do my junk journals. I really don't have a plan. I just kind of see how the bags or the papers or whatever, you know, work for me. So what I just split that. We can glue that shut. That's going to become a pocket on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to flip that to the back here. So that'll glue here. We'll have a pocket here, and then we'll have a pocket here. Okay, and then this page, we'll flip the pockets up, and then I'm going to fold this one back on itself at that 6-inch mark for the next page, and then that will create a flap with a pocket. Okay, and then that'll fold over like this. So this is how this is going to go. So if you can imagine now, we have a accordion piece here. Front cover, signature will go here. We're going to glue this shut eventually after we put some pattern paper on and stuff and decorate it, and we're going to ink and do all that stuff. Then it will turn like this. You will, and this is kind of like turning into a never-ending book. If you guys have followed me, I have like never-ending books. That's what it's going to kind of be like. So this one will have, when we glue this down, we'll have a pocket here for that big pocket here. And then we'll have a pocket here. We could also turn this into a pocket as well. Other things we could do is cut it, make this piece into a flap, okay, that has a pocket. So that's another option. I haven't decided quite yet what we're going to do. But then we'll have a signature sewn here. This will open up. We'll have a pocket here, and you'll have a smaller pocket here, okay? And then you'll have this flip, and then you can use that as a pocket as well. That'll fold up, and that'll turn into the back of the book. And then you're going to have the middle of the book, okay? So we're going to have yet another signature sewn here. So this will go here, and then this won't have a pocket unless we add some to it, okay? So that's how we're going to do that. So again, let's go through this real quick because I know it was kind of confusing, and I'm just going to show you how I put it together. So again, we started off with a big bag, and this one was 14 3/4 wide by 18.5 tall. Doesn't matter as long as when you do your scoring, you have 12 inches across to make your covers, okay? So 6 inches and a score, 6 inches and a score, and then we're going to turn it and score it at 9 so that our covers are 6 by 9, okay? And then the rest of it is plate space, okay? We can just do what we want. So I'm going to fold that up, okay, and fold this over. That's where my front cover comes from, okay? And then we're going to fold this one back, so Z-shaped, okay, accordion shaped. And then that is going to be the next piece. And then that's where we grabbed our smaller bag. And again, this bag started off 12 by 16, okay? So on the side, we turned it. We still have the 6 inches. We scored another 6 inches. We scored. Those are the covers of our books, okay? And then we turned it and scored it at 9. So that becomes the pockets, okay? So because of how I want to glue this together to make it an accordion shape, I'm going to glue that down. I wanted this pocket to go to the back side, okay? So we just made that slit, and I'm going to fold it to the back. So when that glues down here, we're going to create pockets here, but also we'll have a pocket area here, okay? And then this piece will fold up and do that. Okay, so then that'll create another flap. It'll create another pocket. When that folds up, that becomes the back of the book. And then you turn it and you have the middle of the book. And we're going to have another signature there. Okay, so I'm going to glue this together. And then we'll come back and we'll go to the next steps. All right, everybody, I have put this together and glued it, except for the pockets, because we do need to put pattern paper on, and I've inked. You can tell I've got inky fingers. So I inked all the edges, and you can use, you know, any kind of ink you want. You can use the Catherine Polar ink. You can use, you know, Tim Holtz, whatever ink you've got. Country Craft Creations has quite a few selections. So grab your favorite ink, and I just inked all the edges, okay? So this is the front. So it'll open up, and then I'm going to put pattern paper down first, but then I will glue those pockets down. And so, you know, we'll have this pocket and this pocket, and a signature will go here. Okay, then I'm going to turn the page, and then we've got this pocket here. Now I've glued it shut. Here, I do need to glue the bottom yet, and I'm going to do that here in just a little bit, but I want to put the pattern paper in here first. I did end up cutting this, okay, so that's why this bottom edge is open. So I decided I was going to make this into a flap, and it looks like I've missed a spot for gluing, or for inking, but I'm going to make this into a flap, and then it'll have a pocket here. So we're going to kind of have a secret little flap page here, then we're going to have a pocket here. This is going to end up having a signature that goes in here, and it'll be pamphlet sewed here, so that'll close that up nicely, and it'll be fine there. But anyway, I do need to glue this down. I'm going to finish inking that. I totally forgot about that. So then you'll have another signature glued here, and then we're going to have this glued up. Will be a pocket here, and then we'll have a smaller pocket here, and then you're going to have this cute little pocket here, and that flap will go like this. We're going to have yet another pocket here, and this is one of the reasons why I love using paper bags, because you just end up with so many different opportunities, okay? And then if you decide you don't want this, cut it off. If you decide you don't want this to be a pocket, just put pattern paper over it and close it up. I mean, this just, the possibilities are endless. So anyways, this closes up. This will be the back of the book. And then when you open it up like this, we're going to have the middle section. There's going to be another pamphlet stitched signature in here. So you're going to have 3 total, another pocket, and then a full page here that we can add things to, okay? And then you turn it and you're back to the beginning of the book. So this is kind of like one of my never-ending albums. It is going to end up being an accordion with lots of pockets and places to put things. So this will be nice and chunky. We're going to put some stuff in it, and it'll be great. So I'm going to finish inking that, and then I'm going to get some papers ready, and then we'll go on with the next step. But that's where we're at so far. So I've picked out my pattern papers for this, and I wanted to do a quick walkthrough, and then the next step will be getting the pamphlets sewed in. So I just wanted to share this with you. So this is the front of the album, and I did use a piece of the pattern paper here from this kit on the back of this, and I did cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller. So the actual album itself is 6 by 9. So I cut this piece of pattern paper at 5 7/8 by 8 7/8, and it is one of the backs of one of the papers. And when I turned it on its side, because the papers are 8.5 by 11, that's how I cut the piece big enough for this. And then I took one of the journaling papers, and I did cut this down to 5 1/4 by 8 1/4 so that I could have a real pretty border. So that's how I did the front of the album. Now the back of the album is again a piece of the paper that I cut from the 11-inch side. I cut 5 7/8 by 8 7/8, and I used a piece that didn't matter if I had turned it a different direction, so it didn't have a direction on that. But that's the back of the album, or the junk journal, I should say. I did cover it like I do albums, so there's that. Here's the first page in the pocket. Now the signature is going to be sewn right here, so that's why I didn't worry about gluing that pocket down, because when we sew that in, that's what's going to hold it shut. But you have those 2 big pockets here, and then to cover this, I took 2 pieces of the same paper, and I cut the strip off the top, and then the first strip I cut the left side off, and the second strip I cut the right side off. So it kind of, you can see it isn't, it's not quite big enough to do the whole, strip, but it does make it look still in continuity, even though we are going to have a pamphlet here and nobody's probably going to see that part. I kind of wanted to do that. So then these top pieces here, I did not go all the way down in the pocket, so I did use some strips of that. But this is, I did get out of the journal companion pack number 1, I did use one of the journal papers for that to cover the top here, because I wanted that back brown kind of background there. So I did the same thing. I took 2 pieces. I cut the left side off of one, the right side off of the other one to get the 5 7/8 wide that I needed. So then you turn it this way. This we decided to turn into a flap, and I did trim it down a little bit to fit the pattern paper that I had left over because I didn't want to cut into a full other piece. I had some pieces left over. So I did trim it down just a little bitty bit. But then I left the pocket here open. I did glue the bottom, but that'll be a cute little flap there so that you could put photos and whatnot there. And then here, because the paper was not tall enough and I didn't have anything that was non-directional, I really wanted to use this paper. So I took a strip of some leftovers that I had and just made another glued pocket. So we're going to have another pocket here because it didn't quite go all the way down. Okay, so that basically covered up that bottom piece. And then this is where that long pocket came into play. Okay, so then we have this page, and here is the flap. So we've got a pocket here, and then you turn it over, we've got a pocket here, and then we've got the little pocket here, and then because of the nature of the paper bag, we've got a pocket here. I did glue it here and here, and then here to make the pockets. Then you're gonna have a signature sewn here. Okay, so that's how that's going to look. Okay, back of the album, and then you open it up again, and this is the center of the album. So again, it's kind of like a never-ending book. And then we have the pocket here created with the paper bag. And then on this, the inside piece, I did do the same kind of thing as I did with the cover here. Okay, so this and this were from the same piece of paper. I just cut each piece out and then trimmed it to 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. And then I used another piece of the pink paper behind it to kind of frame it. So you have a great journaling spot here or places for photos. Okay, so this is made out of paper bags. This is the start of our junk journal, but it is also a beautiful photo album as well. There's lots of places to put photos. It's gorgeous with this paper. Isn't it gorgeous? And then there's lots of tuck spots to put things. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is grab my papers and get those ready to go for the pamphlets. And we're going to again have 3 of them, because when you look at the album, we turn it like this. This is the front. Here's the back. We're going to have a signature in here. We're going to have one behind, and then we're going to have one here, okay? And it's going to get chunky, and I'm going to love it, because then we're going to decorate too, so that's going to be fun. So that's the next step, is get the pamphlets together. Okay, so like I said, the next process is to put the signatures in, and this book will have 3 signatures. I've done 1, and I'm going to show you how to do the 3rd. They're all done exactly the same way. We're going to use the pamphlet stitch on this, and it works out beautifully. So let me show you real quick what it looks like. So when you open up the book, here's that inside cover with that big pocket, and here's a signature that I made. So I used different papers in each signature, but I did add some of my own coffee dyed copy paper. And when I coffee dye mine, I like to use like 28 to 32 pound paper. And I oven dry it, so because I don't have time to wait, you know, like days for it to dry. So it's a real easy, quick process to do. But if you don't want to do that, you can always spritz with ink with, you know, like the spray inks. You can crumple it up with your hands and rub an ink pad over it. You don't even have to, you know, do anything to the paper if you don't want to. But I just had a bunch of this kind of stored up, and so I decided to use it. So in each of my signatures, I have 3 of the pattern papers, and I used some from the first package of papers, okay, and then I used some from the first companion pack here. So I got that, another coffee dyed paper, and then some more of the pattern paper, and then I also have some ledger paper that I put in here because I really liked that. Okay, so each signature is made with 6 papers total. Okay, and then here's the pocket, and then when you turn it, we've got the second signature here. Okay, here's that flat page with that pocket that we created, and the pocket here, and then here is the second signature. Okay, I just love how this is turning out. It looks great. I really hate the fact that they call them junk journals, because they're just too pretty, right? So that is the second signature. Okay, so I have some lined papers, some unlined papers, and there you go. And then here's that flap page here. So you can see that, you know, where I told you we were going to sew the signatures, that's where we did it. So now what we need to do is sew the signature in the middle part here. And for this, I do have my papers ready to go. So I chose these papers. And again, I used some of my coffee dyed papers. And then some folks iron their papers as well when they coffee dye them because they do get wrinkly and all that. I don't iron them because I kind of like that. So I don't mind that at all. So here's my second signature. And then this is a different paper that I chose to use. And it's shorter. So I'm going to put it a little bit lower on the page here. And I'm going, because of the way we're going to sew it. And that'll be explained here in just a second. But I'm not going to center that one. So there you go. So this is the third signature. All right. So what you're going to want to do is fold it all in half. Okay. And I've already done that. And then this is kind of my process. I'm going to open this up and this is where I'm going to sew it. Okay. So I'm going to make sure everything's out of the way. So I'm opening this up completely flat. And then I do have my foam that I want to put underneath here. And I've got my score pad down so I can protect my desk because we're going to be poking some holes. So what we're going to do is I've got everything folded and in my book and everything is set and I have everything in the right orientation. And then I'm going to take my ruler because it does have kind of a pointy edge and I'm going to line this up into the center here. So the papers are 8.5 tall. So when I center it, it's at 4 1/4. Okay. And then when I center it in my book, it's going to be at 4 1/2. Okay. So there's going to be 1/4 of an inch up and down, above and below the signatures. Okay. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to fold this book up and I want to make sure that everything is like right in the crease where we're going to sew. And this is, I'm doing it this way because I don't have a cradle and I'm hoping to get one real soon. But that's a whole other story. But anyway, I've got this pressed into the fold of my book. Okay. I'm going to take my poker and I'm poking this in the same places that I did the other one. So I'm going to start at the 0 and I'm going to go right at that crease and I'm going to poke all straight down. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the 3-inch mark. And then I'm going to go to the 3-inch mark on the other side. Okay. And that should go right in between all of those creases. Okay. And right through the crease of the spine of the book. Okay. Now I'm going to hold this here. I do have some needle and thread already ready to go. So this is a beaded thread or a bead thread that is waxed. And I like it because it's black and I thought it fit the papers really well. If you have thread that is, you know, nice, like a tan color and you don't like it, you can always ink it. I've done that 100 times too. So it works out really great. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, and the other thing you can do, and this might help you too, is clip it. I didn't tell you that part, but you can clip it and that'll help keep kind of everything in place. Okay. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, again, make sure everything is out of the way. Okay. And everything is in the crease where it's supposed to be. And then we're going to take that needle and thread. We're going to start in the middle. Now, wherever you start, inside or outside the book, that's where the knot's going to be. So if you want the knot outside of your pamphlet on the outer edge on the spine, then that's fine. If you want it on the inside, that's where you need to start. Okay. If you put it on the outside, then if you have long enough thread, you could tie a bow and make it all pretty. But since I'm going to have 3 of these, and then the way I want to close this later, I wanted all the knots on the inside and I wanted to keep the outside spines, you know, kind of smooth. So when you pull this through the middle, you go from the inside to all the way outside and then leave enough to tie. And then I'm going to flip this over so you can see this. And I'm going to go through one of the other holes, either the bottom or the top. It doesn't really matter. And you go through all of the pieces of paper, okay? Then what we're going to do is go all the way up to the top, and we're going to go through that top hole, okay? So just go all the way past, skip that bottom, or skip that middle, I should say, and go all the way through, okay? So now we're at the top on the outside. Then we're going to go back up through the middle again, okay? Now the important thing here is that we're going to make sure you see where the tails are on the same side of that piece that's going all the way through. We need to make sure one's on one side and one's on the other. Then you can take your needle off and then just pull it tight, okay? And then you can tie your knot. So I'm going to tie a square knot, making sure it's nice and tight. And then I usually add another one just for giggles, because I do. And then I'm going to cut it to about 1 inch. And that is literally all there is to doing a pamphlet stitch. It's really, really easy to do. So then the other thing that I like to do is I do like to melt my edges. And I'm going to grab something so my fingers aren't so close, so that my strings don't unravel. So I'm just going to real quick just hit it with a lighter. You can use glue if you want, but there's that. So that is basically how you do it. Okay, so now my signature's sewn in, and it's super simple. Okay, and now you can see the reason why I kind of put this down a little bit, because if I put it up higher, then my measurements with my holes might not have gone through the paper, and it would only been kind of tied in with the middle piece. But I like it off center. I think it looks really good. Okay, so that's that. And then that is the binding of this. Now remember I told you it's going to get all fat and chunky. Well, I love this. I just love this. Now we're going to decorate it. We're going to put some more stuff in it. This is just the basic cover done and the signatures put in. And again, it'll open kind of like a never-ending book. Okay, so we have the 3 sets of signatures, like so. All right, so next step is some decorating, and I'm going to do some of that off camera, but I will do some of it on camera with you. So I will be back soon, and we'll talk about that process. Okay, everybody, I'm back, and I have finished decorating, and basically what I'm going to do is take you through a walkthrough of this, and then I'm going to show you how I did some of the paper clips that I added in here. I did like a hidden paper clip with a little piece that hangs out so you can tie charms and things too, but I just wanted to kind of go through this, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So on the front cover, I do have this lace that I just wrapped around to close it. So because this is a kind of a never-ending or a do-si-do, or however you want to call it, an accordion album, it's hard to kind of put a closure on here. So I'm just going to wrap around with the lace, which is perfect because it looks really pretty. And I did use this lace throughout. I added some flowers to the front with my hot glue gun, and then I added these little corners here. And those corners are actually, they were in the button section of my local store, and I've had them in my stash for a long time. They don't have shanks on them, but they were great for photo corners, and I'm really sad because I won't be able to get them anymore, but I did have those, so I decided to put that on the cover to just kind of finish that up. So that's pretty much all I did with the cover. On the back, what I did was I used the cut aparts here, and I did fussy cut this little teeny tiny heart out of the paper that was left over, like my scraps, and I just kind of layered these things together, and then did the petals and letters cut apart from the ephemera sheets, and that's the back of the album. Okay, so like I said, this will just wrap around and close this up, and this thing got pretty chunky. So as you open this up, we have this pocket. Here's some ephemera pieces and one of the little word sentiments that says sweet moments. And then I took the little envelope piece of ephemera. I added the love notes title here, and you can see I did do a little pamphlet stitch here because on the inside I created a little booklet. So I used one of the pockets here. I did cut off the side tab, and then I angled it, so I kind of transformed that pocket, but then I did put the postcard in there, and this is an ephemera piece as well, and I did back it with some of my coffee dyed composition book paper. I tore a composition book book apart, and I coffee dyed those sheets, so I have those as line sheets as well. And then this pattern paper piece here was a piece that was left over from making the album, or the junk journal I should say. So I just folded it in half, and then I just folded the sides in. I used my corner punch and then just kind of made a little tuck there. So here's the pages for that. This piece here was a little bit long, So I just folded it up to make it fit. And then we have some journal spots there, like that. And then this just closes with a really simple paper clip. And I just took one, I thread some of the lace through, and then I tied this really skinny, like, it's like 1/16 of an inch, I think. It's not even 1/8 of an inch. Ribbon through it and just tied a bow, and that's all I did to that. But that keeps that nice and closed. And then this just fits right into that big tuck pocket. And then we have our pages. So I decorated with the ephemera pieces here and here. I added some pom-pom trim, and I did use a strip, 1/8" strip of score tape with some glue added on just to make sure that it didn't come off. So I have that. Here's one of the ephemera pieces I made into a belly band, and then underneath I used the bingo card here, and again backed it with some of the coffee dyed composition book paper. And then I had some library cards that I have coffee dyed, and so I just put one of the word ephemera pieces on that and created a little another, you know, placed, or another piece to put underneath that belly band. I can't use my words today, sorry. And I put the little word ephemera piece there. As we turn the page, a little word. Now some of these pages are blank because the object of this is to be a journal. So I did keep a lot blank. This was the free printable that you can get through Country Craft Creations that I printed out, and I had already shared this on Scrapbookers, and I just created the bookmark out of it. I backed it with some of the ledger paper here, and then used some of the word bits and the stamp ephemera pieces there. And then I just tied through the hole, I put a piece of the lace, and then I tied a piece of seam binding around it. I did add a little bit of a fussy cut flower on it and some lace, and made a really cute little bookmark. So here's one of the pockets, and in the pocket I have the ephemera piece. I backed it with some paper, and then I have this tag, and again backed it, and then I just tied a bow with the lace, and then used a little tiny paper clip, safety pin, and put it through the knot of the bow, and then I hung that little charm there that I had in my stash. So I wanted to kind of put that in that pocket. Then we have this page. Here's another paper clip that was really super simple because I just tied a bow to the top. That was it. This is one of the journal cards, and I just, you know, cut that out and inked it, and it's just ready to go. On the back of this, underneath here, I have a ticket and a tag, and the tag was, I added the ephemera piece to it and just tied a simple little ribbon bow, and then they're both backed with paper as well, so you could write little notes on those. Here's one of the paper clips, and I am going to show you how to make this one when we get done with the walkthrough. So it has the little bit sticking out, so you can put a charm on it. And then I put one of the ephemera pieces under that on that side, and then it's blank back here, but I can still tuck something underneath there. Here's that, and then here is the back of the first section. Okay, so that's the first section. And this is the back pocket, and in this pocket, you're gonna love this. This is another booklet because this pocket was so big. I wanted to make another booklet. So this booklet is, I added the word, and I fussy cut out that little butterfly and this flower, and then it's made out of the calendar page that you have in the companion pack. And so I thought, well, I'm going to put this in the pocket. And then while I did it, I thought, well, no, I'm going to do some more to it. So I added some more pages, and I just did a pamphlet stitch on it, just the same as I did everything else. Here's one of the paper ephemera bits that looks like a piece of washi tape, and I just literally just glued it onto a piece of paper to make another little journaling spot. Here, this paper was, again, the composition book paper, and it was a little bit long, so I just folded it. Here are the lock and the key that I just layered on each other. This one says handwritten memories. So again, lots of journaling spots. If you were to use this as, you know, your actual calendar, you have lots of places to, you know, write your appointments, your notes, your lists, whatever. Okay, and there you go. So that was really simple to put together, and just went to my stash of my coffee dyed papers. So that's section 1. Then we turn and we go to section 2. Here's where we have the flap. I added the tab ephemera piece to that, and then the word dreams here, and left that open because I thought, you know, you could put pictures here and stuff. I wanted to do that. Here's that pocket I created just with the patterned paper, and in this one I put one of my library cards and then the recipe card. And what I did with these is I took and cut them, and then I glued them together so that I could have my little recipe card in here. Okay. And then underneath that big pocket, I just have one of my coffee dyed papers that I just folded and tucked under here. And there's a ton of room still. Here's the signature, so we'll go through that. Again, ephemera bits here. Here's a little pocket, and in the pocket I put a tag, one of the fussy cut flowers. And then I did add to the tag the little flower and the My Love word. And here is another of the bookmarks that were the free printables that go with this collection. So I've already showed this as well, but I have a die that makes these faux wax seals. So I did that and stamped an image in it, and then I added some lace, and then again, just tied the ribbon through there. Oh yeah, and on the back, word sticker, and then some flowers. So I thought that was kind of pretty to do. And then here we have a belly band, and I put that ephemera piece there, and then underneath that I have a postcard, and I added the stamp to it, and then I just have another piece of coffee dyed paper that I just folded and put underneath here. Okay, and I did it offset on purpose. I just wanted to. I thought it was real pretty, and then it shows the postcard part really well. Turn the page. On this page here, these two pockets here were in the ephemera cut-aparts, and so I just stacked them and made a double pocket. In the pocket here is one of the other tags, and again, I just thread the ribbon and the seam binding through and then tied a little ribbon underneath that, and then this is one of the cut-aparts. All right, and that just goes in there. Another one of the tabs, and then more of the pom-pom trim. All right. And then here's another one of those paper clips I'm going to show you how to make. This one I did not put a charm on, but I did add a little bit of pom-pom lace, and then I fussy cut these out of some leftover papers. And then underneath that is the Polaroid cut apart that was in the collection. So I tucked that in there. And then on the back, that's the back of the paper clip. And then here I took one of my library cards, used the washi tape pieces, and I just glued the whole thing down. Thought that was kind of pretty. It looks like it's taped down. Here is another paper clip, very simple, tied a seam binding through, used the little safety pin and the little charm there. And then underneath that, I have one of the 3x4 cut-aparts and the ticket tag. And that just kind of tucks underneath there. And then on the back, I have another one of the journaling cards, okay? And then we get to the back of section 2. So here's where you have that big pocket. In here, I put one of the library cards, and I used one of the fussy cut pieces for that. And then you open it up, and then you have the pocket here, which has another one of the recipe cards. And then it also has one of my coffee dyed papers in it. Put happy hearts here. Here's the pocket here, which has one of the big tags. And then the paint chip here. Okay, that one I did not back with anything. And then the little tag here for this little pocket is right here. Okay, just tied a simple seam binding bow through that. And then that just, whoops, folds up like so, and then like so. So here's the back of the book, and then you open it up, and section 3 is in the middle of all this. So we have this pocket here. In this one, I put one of the little journaling cards. I put the third recipe card, and then this was a piece of the paper that was left over, so I just made it into a little journaling booklet. And that will tuck all in here. Here's your signature. Here's a piece of paper that was left over. I just glued it into a pocket, and then in this pocket, 2 of the journaling cards, and then one of the other tags, like so. And that is on an old time card that I had in my stash that I had coffee dyed. All right. Then this one here is just a cute little cluster of ephemera that I put, and I did fussy cut this out of a piece of the paper. And then here is the other freebie corner bookmark that now everything's falling out. on the back side, I'll show you in a second. But anyways, there's that. And it has a little charm on that as well. And then underneath this section here, I had this little envelope tucked. So this is another one of the ephemera pieces. I did add the stamp and then 2 little hearts that I fussy cut out of the papers. And then when you open it up, here's again another scrap of paper that I turned into a little journaling spot. And on the front, I added the letter and the love letters word, and then that just tucks in there. And then I have it kind of tucked underneath there. So here we go. Stories Untold. Little heart that I fussy cut out of the papers. You can see where that came from. And then let's turn the page. This one was fun. Okay, so this was an ephemera piece, and I don't know if you can see it, but the it had like little staples here, and I kind of didn't staple them quite exactly on the lines, but you can see where they had like the photo of a staple there. So then I got the idea to take some scraps that I had, and I made kind of a graduated little notepad journaling spot. I added the tabs to it, and so then this is just a great little kind of a tablet kind of thing. And all of the pages are graduated. And then when I put them together, I layered this over the top of them, and then I stapled them here, and then I glued the top down to the page so that you could flip it up like a tablet. So I thought that was kind of cute. Here's another paper clip, again, really simple with the lace, and then a charm with the safety pin, and then a couple of the little ephemera pieces here, and that just tucks underneath here. And then over here, I had a piece of the copy paper left over. So I just folded it into an accordion, made the tag shape. I added the word together there. And then here, a bit of lace. And then I glued the cut apart seal that comes in the ephemera pieces on top of that. And so I thought that was kind of a cute tuck. Here's another pom-pom trim. Here's another bookmark. So this one was an ephemera piece that you could do in multiple ways, and what I ended up doing was cutting it and then folding it down the middle and then making it into another little bookmark. So really easy peasy. But I like all the lace and the seam binding hanging out the top. Now here, this is a big coin envelope that I had in my stash, so I glued it on 2 sides. And then on the front, I added the little pocket with the ephemera pieces and the little file folder that I did put some paper in so you could journal, and I added the little word forever there. And then in the pocket, what I did was I took a piece of the journal paper and I cut it in half, and I did trim it down just a little bit to fit. But this one I again folded it and just made a long tag journal piece that just sticks in here, added the ephemera bit there, and then this one just tucks underneath in behind that envelope, and then there's another little journal spot. So that's another way you can use those pages. And then here is the back of the 3rd section, and I just left that open. So that is the walkthrough. Let me show you how to make those paper clips. It's so simple, and you just use scraps for it. So I have a charm here that I picked out. I have a little miniature safety pin, and then I have a paper clip that's about 1 inch, and that fits perfectly for this size scrap. This is just a scrap. So what you're going to do is you decide which side you want outside, and this one here, I want the roses on the outside. So I'm going to fold it so that the outside is in and the inside is out. Okay, so I'm just going to fold that right in half. This is where you need to kind of look at your paper clips and make sure they're the right size. If you get, let me grab a bigger one just to show you. This one for this scrap would be way too big because I wouldn't be able to fold the paper up and cover it. So I went with a smaller paper clip for this particular scrap, and the only thing I did with this scrap was I trimmed it a little bit. So this one here, I trimmed it to, it's about 1 5/8 inch, and it's about 6 inches or so, give or take. It doesn't have to be super exact, but it does have to be able to fold up and cover most of your paper clip. And if you notice, I did not push my paper clip all the way down. I'm going to leave it up a little bit because I want to be able to thread some ribbon through, and I also want to be able to you know, tie the knot and everything. So I do want a little bit of an edge, okay? A little bit of that paper clip sticking out. So once you get that done, then you're simply going to just fold this up. Once you got the measurements and everything and you got your paper clips figured out, you're just going to fold that up. And this one's going to be kind of a square. And then this is what I mean by having the outside showing, because now that we folded it up, this is the side that's going to show, okay? I didn't get all my roses in there, but I got some. I got some of the darker colors in there. So once you get that done, now the next thing you want to do is round your corners or use your punches or whatever. So let me grab, whoop, after I throw it all over the room, just my corner rounder, and I'm going to stick this in here and I'm going to round all 4 corners. And you can use, I used a scallop punch on one. You can use your corner rounder. Again, you can use longer strips and use a bigger paper clip. So this is just kind of the basic idea. And once you do that, then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ink my edges. Okay. So while it's folded up, I'm just going to ink that pretty good. Okay. Okay. Then once you do that, then we're going to open it back up, and where we had our paper clip, we're going to put it back in. All right. And remember to leave a little bit hanging out. Okay. Now, sometimes with my paper clips, I tend to put a little piece of score tape across just to kind of secure it a little bit. Okay. So I'll just put a little bit across that paper clip just to kind of secure things. And then once you do that, then we're going to just glue that up. So I'm just going to take my art glitter glue here. And I'm going to glue that together, okay? And I'm going to press really good around that paper clip. Using my inky cloth here that I've been using all day to finish up this project. Because it's okay, because I used a lot of ink on this project, so it's going to work out just fine. All right, so I've got that glued together. It's not glued underneath the paper clip, okay? So I just folded it up and glued it down. So we're going to repeat on the other side. And that's pretty much it. So you can play with different size paper clips. You can get longer strips, like I said, use bigger paper clips. If you use a wider piece, meaning it's wider this way, you could put 2 paper clips in there and have 2 kind of danglies out there if you wanted. Okay. So the choice is yours. But this is the really super simple, easy peasy, no muss, no fuss. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this one, I like this better. We're going to loop it through. So I'm going to put it in there, do it like it's a tag, right? So that's why you need that little space in that paper clip, because we're just threading this right through the paper clip. And then pull that taut, and there you go. So then you just take your little safety pin, and it doesn't even have to be a miniature safety pin. You can use a bulb pin. You could even, you know, like thread, needle and thread through the charm and then just tie it through. But that's it. That's literally all there is to that. And then you have this cute little paper clip, and then you have your charm hanging off of it. So we're just going to trim that lace up a little bit. And then we just need to find a spot to put it. So let's grab our book. And I think what I wanted to do, I'm looking at all of my pages here, somewhere where it might need a little something. Let's go back here. I think maybe, let's just add it to this page. I think that would be really pretty. So let's just put it right in here. Now I'm going to kind of go up a little bit. You can do it off the side. You can do it off the top. I'm going to go up if you do it off the side, because I'm going to have that ribbon wrapped around, but then that'll hang out like so and be another charm in your project. So I'm going to move it up just a little bit more. Now you have another tuck space that you can, you know, pop something under there. So there's a lot of room still to add on to this album. and a lot of places to put things. And look how beautiful and chunky it is. I mean, I just think this turned out super, super pretty. I just love how it looks. Okay, so that is what I wanted to show you with this. So I really hope you like the project. I loved putting this together, and I have quite a bit left that I can do another journal. And you know, it's going to be totally different looking because there's so many beautiful papers. You can go so many different color themes with this that it's awesome. So I still have quite a bit left, so I'll come up with another project here. But I'm just going to tie that shut, like I said, and there you go. So there is my shopping bag junk journal for Country Craft Creations using Petals and Letters, which is our new heritage line of hybrid junk journal crafting products. And I really hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, and I hope you do try this out soon. Check down below for links. I'll have links to the products that I used that weren't in my stash, the products from Country Craft Creations. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great evening, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.